Hello everyone, and this is Ediawan. I'm back to deliver about news and updates. And don't worry, the Belajar.net is still there. We have something to do. Yes, it's been a while, more than a week. I think it's 2 weeks. But don't worry, I promise to bring you a nice content about Visual Studio and .NET updates. So now, in this episode 5 of News and Updates, we have Visual Studio 18, which is now officially named as Visual Studio 2026. Now it's still in preview. It is fortunately publicly downloadable. So let me tell you about this first. Prior to this, I have an interview with Mars Christensen, and I was having some technical issues. Thanks to him, I can get the recording of the interview. I mean, interview of Mans and me. We are having discussion about Visual Studio 2026. So, and since the editing is nearly completed, you can have the interview right after this video. So, stay tuned. Okay. Right now, it's with me. I'm Erwin Kusumadono, and this is VisualStudio.net News and Updates. So, in this episode 5, we are not just discussing about Visual Studio, but also other news. And yeah, I think it's very worthy to discuss. Like, we will have a new .NET STS, the short-term service or short-term service duration. And we are also going to have discussion about .NET 10 RC1. The term of RC means that you can not just install it, but also use it, and it is also having a go live support, meaning that not just using and try it, but also if you have some problems, when you are using and or developing on top of .NET RC1, the .NET 10 RC1, you can just voice your concern for Microsoft. But actually, since the .NET 10, we all know that it is open source, so you can always voice your concern on the .NET repo, and it is good practice to focus on the feature that you have some problems instead of directly pricing the general .NET Core repo. So you can always search for WinForms, ASP.NET, or many things like WPF, EF, and so on, so on. Okay, so now I'm going to show you about this Visual Studio 18, and let's go and discuss these news and updates. I'm going to go to my browser now. Okay, we have here open the Visual Studio blog. Visual Studio blog is basically a blog that focusing on anything about Visual Studio, but it will not discuss anything about .NET because you will have a specific blog page for that one, like this one. It will all about .NET, so you see that devblogs.microsoft.com/.NET. So we'll discuss that later. Right now, we are focusing on what happened. I mentioned about Visual Studio 18 before, and as promised, uh, I had an interview with Mats Christensen, this guy. Right now, and the nice thing is the Visual Studio 18 or Visual Studio 2026, it is available to try to download. And let's open this one. Visual Studio 2026 Insider is here. And we open this one. There is a release party, and you'll see on this YouTube channel. You can check on the Visual Studio YouTube channel. So, sorry. Okay, here we are. You can see that we have a insiders release party. It's about 1 hour. I think it's you can watch it later. This video is quite good, but there is more. Not just this one, there are more. Okay, so insider is here. That means that we are not just going to have the next major update to 2022, but also lots things happen. So this version of Visual Studio promised many things. Not just you are going to have a newer version of Visual Studio, but also you will have a tighter schedule of Visual Studio releases. And I don't know, maybe this video, this is just an intro video for Visual Studio 2026. It has a theme about AI, GitHub Copilot, but I think to me the best thing about this new release is not just this guy. I'm focusing on what do I have to justify. Okay, I like this version. Unfortunately, it is kind of a theming like you will have a Visual Studio 2026. That version will be the first Visual Studio that support .NET 10.0 SDK. You can compile .NET 10 inside Visual Studio 2022 because it is not supported to have .NET 10 development on top of 2022. You can only have it on this guy. I know that if you follow the repo of .NET 10, you will see that you can still compile using the tooling of the Visual Studio 2022, but you cannot, having a nice experience of debugging and so on, especially begin with the .NET 10 RC1. So, okay, I'll check on the download page. Usually, you can have the .NET 10 and also the information about the IDE and so on. So on. Let's discuss this 2026. But I have it installed on my machine just now. Not just now. I mean, it's been more than 2 weeks. I was having the most, not most. I mean the quite initial preview that is being open to only to MVP, but I think it's a good thing that we can now try to not just download but also install Visual Studio 2028, and I think it's here. Oh, Insiders. Yeah, it's called Insiders now. And let's go continue with that code, and you will see that you have Visual Studio. When you look at the about, you'll see that directly says Visual Studio 2026. Yes, it is still supporting the .NET framework, but it also has this guy lots component. I'm not installing all of them. I'm not installing like the MAUI support, Android and iOS and many things. I only install what I decided to try or what I'm eager to try and try to compare with the experience if I use Visual Studio 2022. Yes, there is some quirky or strange behavior. For example, if I install the theme that I had before in 2022, somehow it doesn't work. You see, like if I use like for example, and the color is not working. This theme originally only works for 2022, and the promise of this 2026, all the themes that work in 2022 should work on this release, but I could not make it work. I don't know why. Maybe I'll file a bug report after this. But other than that, everything is okay. Let's go to the work list of this guy. You can just look at the Visual Studio installer, and you'll see that now this version, the one that I have now, the public insiders release, or yeah, it says here insiders. It supported .NET 10. So let me see. There should be Enterprise 2026 Insiders, and you will see that it supports .NET 10. See, so now it supports .NET 10, meaning that I don't have to install .NET 10 RC1. I hope, yeah, I hope. But let's see if I just open file new project, new. Let's just do a simple console. Let's click next. Okay. Why is there is no version? Never mind. Let's just say console app vs 2026. We'll see. Place solution project. No, no, no. But yeah, I'll just try this one first. And we have here 8, 9, and 10. And we have 10 preview. Okay. So I'm going to stop here and I'm going to check what version of the SDK of .NET 10 do I have right now. I haven't installed the RC1 yet, so let's check on the command prompt here. .NET --this is SDKs. Oh, now I have a RC1. Oh, okay. I don't know who is updating this, but the workload is still showing preview. So, okay, let's see if I have this one, preview. So, I'm not going to enable container for now. I'm not going to use top level statement. Just create to maintain compatibility with my previous videos of Belajar.NET, of course. Yeah, we have here the same old, console hello world. Okay, so let's try to rebuild this. Wait. Well, oh yeah, it's just using RC1. This is a good thing, but okay, I have RC1, but why it says here you are using a preview version of .NET? C support policy. Yeah, I know. Let's just try to run this guy. Everything still works. And this is the same as the 2022, of course. I have hello world. But again, the nice thing is if you see the actual what's new, so let's go to not this one. Release note is the okay. It will show you the release note for the insiders, the 2020 insiders. But I'm going to show you is the what's new. So there should be something like what's new page or whatever. Why is doesn't? Okay, getting started. No. Surface status. Is it this one? No. But yeah, this link is the one that you should read if you are very new to Visual Studio. But I'm not going to discuss that here for now. Okay, what's new? Okay, there should be something. Not this one. Map. View. All here. Let's open the old 2022. Continue without code. There should be something. There you are. What's new? This is what's new. What's new is on help. I should see what's new in the help menu, right? Okay, there you are. What's new? Yes, we have here is insiders. So we have something a list of the what's new in this release. So we have here many things, but somehow it is more promoting GitHub Copilot. But yeah, you can look it on your own. What I'm interested is support about this .NET 10, and of course C# 14 is always like some kind of trend. You have .NET 10, and then the remaining, the remaining cars that after the head of the locomotive or the train is like you will have C# 14, you will have ASP.NET 10, and then you will have maybe Aspire 10, and so on, so on, so on. So all of those can have its own version, like you have is C# 14, but you can also have other components, and most of them are aligned with .NET release. For example, ASP.NET Core 10, Windows Form 10, WPF 10, and so many things. So it's like EF10 and so on, so on, so on. The other things that is not perfectly aligned, you'll see that in F sharp. I don't know. Maybe this time it is aligned, but F sharp can have its own, a little bit more like out of band releases. So just for your information. But I hope that they decided to have it aligned with the each release of the .NET, because then you will have a some kind of alignment with the greatest and the nice things about .NET 10. For example, you will have something like improve performance, improve the just-in-time uh, compiler and tooling and so on. Maybe some other things I may have missed. That kind of thing you cannot put aside. Like, yes, you can still use the F sharp compiler in the .NET 10 to compile F sharp in .NET 9, for example. But having the ability to always leverage the runtime that you are on, especially .NET 10 will have a LTS release. That would be a best thing to do, and it is also a good thing to plan for now. Now that we have the .NET 10 in the release candidate, it means that you have a go live license, meaning that you can be sure that it is supported for production scenario or production software development. So yeah, you can start it right now. That means that I'm going to bring you the next one. So yeah, but before that, I have to inform you. Now we are going to have a longer STS release. So let's go to this. Where is it? Not this one. Okay, there you are. So we are going to have a longer STS release. This is why I mentioned about the duration or the term of that release. So previously, as I have mentioned before in my previous videos, if the version number of the .NET is old version, there is STS release, and it will only available with the support for 18 months. Now they are increasing the length of support that we have here from 18 to 24 months. That would be 2 years. To put it simply, you know that the LTS is 3 years. So when .NET 8 is released, it will have a 3-year support or 36 months. Now you have .NET 9, and then that .NET 9 will have about 2 years support, meaning that the end of support of .NET 9 will be the same as the end of support of .NET 8. because .NET 8 is 3 years and .NET 9 now we will have about 24 months or 2 years. So if you look at this page, you see that the original release date is here, the annual support is this, and annual support of the .NET 9 previously is May 12th. But now it will have the same date of November 10, 2026 because this guy will be extended to have STS for 2 years. So 2 years like 12, oh sorry, 24, yeah, 24 months. So it's not just 18 months anymore. This is a good thing. But let me inform you, for those guys in the enterprises, they usually trying to not to break anything can be seen as a very slowly upgrading, and it is quite normal because if you have a large enterprises with many of the user machines are already there, and if you have to support it for upgrading all of those for every 18 months, many of them are reluctant, and they decided, okay, let's just use the LTS instead of the STS version. And you can see all of the explanation here. Read it on your own. We know some customers choose to stay on LTS due to longer support time frame available for those releases. Like I mentioned before, some enterprise even have internal policy requiring development teams only use LTS version. And this is understandable. It is making sense because LTS we have 3 years. Even when we see the initial release of the LTS and STS thing, some enterprise uh, I don't know, maybe if you may not believe me, some enterprise somehow could not really keeping up with those even 3 year support. But now that if you really have the nice thing about it, and I should also mention and also inform you that .NET Framework is not going to be developed anymore. It is being maintained, yes. It is being supported, yes, of course, especially if you are developing on top of .NET Framework 4.8. That 4.8 is guaranteed to work on even on the latest Windows operating system like the one that I have now, Windows 11 version 24H2, if I'm not mistaken. It is still supported. Even for the next release, it is still supported. Like, I think this year we are going to have a Windows 25H2 release. I don't know exactly when the release will be announced, but yeah, that .NET Framework 4.8 is still supported. It is supported, yes. It is further developed, no. You will see no new release of .NET Framework. All of the effort, all of the development, all of the releases, the new version, and so on, will always be focusing or be not be focusing, focus on .NET Core, which is now it's just .NET since .NET 5. So yeah, and it's a good thing that we are going to have the STS for every 2 years. So that should give enough time and room for the enterprise to adapt. I'm not saying that let's just keeping up with the each release of .NET because every year you will have a newer .NET release, and we already know that that kind of schedule or cadence is already there since .NET 5, I think. So after .NET 5, it will always like annual release. All of those releases are considered as major release. There is no like 5.1, 5.2. No, you'll all have 5.0 and then 6.0 and so on and so on. The other number segment after those two, like 5.0, are the uh, fetching version. If you have the runtime, you'll have 5.0.1, 5.0.2, and so on. If you have the SDK, usually the numbers after the two segment are 3 digits, like 5.0.100 or 100. That means the initial version of the SDK. And then if you have another bump of the version of the Visual Studio, is usually they align with the version of that SDK. For example, the first number of that 3 digit, the 5.0.1, that one is usually closely linked with the update of Visual Studio. For example, if you have I think I will show you. Okay, let me see. I think somehow my internet doesn't work before. Okay, it should work. Okay, now you have. Oh, okay. It is already mentioned that the inclusion of this RC1 is available in 2026. Honestly, I don't know about this because I have mentioned that I had installed the preview version of Visual Studio before. It wasn't called the Insiders. It is called preview, but only for the MVP first. Now that it is going public and they say preview one, I think it is slightly misleading because how do I know that the Visual Studio I have, the 2026 is the preview one? Because if you look here, you are not seeing preview one. You're only seeing the insiders with the version like 1101.8.127. So yeah, it doesn't give you enough information or clean information about that. And yeah, they should update this. But now that I have the latest public Visual Studio Insiders, you can be sure, I think, and I'm sure about that. But if you find it different, please let me know. As long as you choose to install with the correct workload on the Visual Studio installer. So let me open the Visual Studio installer here. There you are. And you'll see that I have one, two, and yeah, I have two Visual Studio. And the other one, the build tools, is only built the build tools, not the whole Visual Studio 2019. I decided to left to yeah I decided to leave Visual Studio 2019, not just focusing on the 2022, but also I don't have enough space on my disk. Yeah, that sucks. Okay, anyway, so let's look at the workload here. The support for full .NET SDK is enabled if check this and check this. These two are important because this you will have support for desktop development, and this you will have support for ASP.NET development. That includes the ASP.NET Core and so on. So by selecting these two, you are good to go if you are focusing on .NET. And also I choose Azure Development because I would like to know what would be the support for the Azure SDK, and also this will install the necessary support for creating Azure related resources such as Azure Function and so on. And the other thing is I check is the Visual Studio Extension development because I usually like to develop extension of Visual Studio. I know. I should mention about that in the marketplace, but honestly, I haven't published it on marketplace because it's only for my own purpose learning. Because I started to learn Visual Studio Extension development since 2019. Actually, way before it was 2010, but then uh, I could not keeping up due to many things like work and life related. Then I Okay, I start to learn again about extension development, and it's totally different from 2010 because there are so many APIs that it is now being deprecated or obsoleted. So I think you should just start with 2022 for now. Okay. Oh, one thing. If you are developing extension for Visual Studio, you better just use the SDK as is because the chance that you have your extension somehow it is more optimized to run on 64-bit because even the Visual Studio itself, you already know that since 2022, you are having Visual Studio of 64-bit. So let's just focusing on Visual Studio 64-bit. There is no Visual Studio 32-bit 2022 and later, including this 2026. All of these are 64-bit. Okay, so yeah, if you just want to have this, that will be fine. But if you decided to install all of them, I don't recommend because that you will have a very you know requirement of space. Like for example, if you want to have desktop development C++, you see now you need 6.7 gigabyte of space. So I'm not going to install it now. Then you have to wait for me to download all of this. But I'm not. Okay. Now that you see this, and you can see that there is a close link or closely coupled with the Visual Studio version like we have here, meaning that you cannot ignore this. And the other things that I mentioned before is closely related is the version number of the language. You see, you have C# 14 and then you have Visual Studio 17. I think this is it may be a little bit misleading. Usually Visual Basic is in line with the Visual Studio version, but now it is still using the version 17. I don't know why. Maybe there is no further development. I don't know. But it should be further developed because even though it doesn't have a newer features, the compiler has to, you know, has to have a newer release. Otherwise, I don't know whether it can work on the newer features of .NET 10 itself. So maybe this is having wrong version. I don't know. I'll try to look at the .NET SDK and the Roslyn, I think Roslyn compiler because that Roslyn repo is the one that not just having the source code of the C# compiler, but also it has the source code of Visual Basic compiler. And yeah, I will check the version on that repo. So we have here that also conclude the news that I have now. You see, so let's look at the original. Yeah, we have here. Oh, why do I have to? Well, actually, we have three, but I was going to tell you about some changes. You know that Visual Studio 2026 is the first Visual Studio version that has support for MCP servers. MCP is Model Context Protocol. It is usually used by AI in the IDE to help you, analyze your code and so on based on the language model that you choose. The LLM, which one that you choose. You can have the ChatGPT. You can have the granular version of ChatGPT like GPT 4.0, GPT 5, GPT 4 mini or something. I could not remember, but actually you can check this. So yeah, just there you are. You have GPT 3.03 mini. You have Cloud Sonnet. This is coming from I think Anthropic and Google Gemini. we have here. Yeah, so you can choose the model. This release, the 2026, will not support GPT-3 anymore. And you know that based on the OpenAI itself, GPT-3, I think it is not supported right now. They are focusing on the GPT-4 and GPT-5. I don't know, maybe if any of you ask me about the beast mode, that is something that I have tried, and it is, quickly taking off my limit of the number of the prompt that I can submit, because it is taking more resources than beast mode. I don't think this 5 mini is beast mode. Maybe this GPT-5 is the beast mode, but the default is GPT-4.1. This is good. I already tried it. This experience I already have in the 2022, but in 2026 there should be something, or some features that can support for MCP. Yeah, I'll try to dig it later. But if you use Visual Studio Code, and yeah, it is not mentioned in the title, but let me show you. Visual Studio Code has support for MCP servers. It can, choose. Okay, so I'm going to open my folder of the Belajar .NET. So this is Visual Studio Code. And if you go on the extensions here, you see that it can connect to different MCP servers. So if I browse, you see that you have links or list of the MCP servers that is supported. Let's see, you have a, oh cool, you have MCP for the Markdown. Yeah, MCP for Azure MCP servers, and Microsoft Learn, and so on, so on. So I believe that this list will grow, will not shrink. It will always grow because um, 2 months ago it is less than 12. Now it grows into, I think, more than 20. Yeah, more than 20. You have a MCP for, nice. You have MCP for Terraform, not just Azure and Azure DevOps. There is also MCP for Notion, GitHub, Playwright. Playwright is the automation of the web browser testing, and many things. So you see, oh, Dynatrace, Logfire, Hugging Face, Codacy. Yeah, I think this has grown so much. Oh, nice to know that you have an MCP server for Postman. Postman is the one that you can use for testing REST API. Usually REST API, but you can also use Postman to test SOAP API. So yeah, that's it for now. You have the Visual Studio 2026 for download, and the icon is slightly different as you see here. So I have now 2022 right here. I have 2026. I have Visual Studio Code, and yeah, all of those are running on my machine. And nice thing about 2022 and 2026, they are not killing each other. So they have a separate folders. This is why I mentioned about I almost, running out of space because I usually not just installing Visual Studio with the .NET, but also many things. If you see here on the 2022 that I have installed many workloads, so not just see that I have Python development, .NET MAUI, desktop development, WinUI, .NET Desktop, and also C++. So Visual Extension, yeah, this one, desktop development with C++. I need this because I want to be able to compile .NET SDK or any kinds of .NET features that is available on the open source, especially those from Microsoft. Because I usually try to submit PR if I have some bugs to be reported, or if they made some bugs to be open for participation. Usually there is a up for grab or help wanted and many things. But now everything seems looks like everything seems to be integrated, or not integrated. I think the correct word for that, everything seems to be in line or standardized. Okay, let's just go to the .NET and go to the runtime maybe. You'll see on the list of the issues that you have, you will see that there is a help wanted. Okay, it's now okay. This one. This one means that good for external contributors, good issue for external contributors, meaning that any issues that is having this kind of tag, you can directly try to solve it and submit a PR for that. I think it's a good practice to know the inside working of the .NET SDK itself, not just using it, because then you will have more and more visibility on what's actually going on. If you are just using it, you will understand less. Even something that you may wonder what's going on, you cannot directly feel it. But if you are directly contributing on the .NET SDK, especially some features that you will have some kind of practice or learning that is very very valuable compared to just using the .NET. I think I have done this before, and I know that not all of my PR are accepted, but it's a good practice for you, not just for me. Yeah, I believe that. So please try and please contribute to all of those repo under the .NET. And don't worry, these repo are either licensed as a MIT or sometimes Apache license. So it is always permissive. Like you see here, it is having MIT license. So if you have some kind of bravery to create your own SDK based on this, or you fork all of those components, you can do that. I'm sure, but only if you are able to combine all of those into a single SDK. But there is a article for that, and I'm not going to discuss that right now. So happy coding. What I usually say, coding is happiness, because happy coding meaning that you are happy to code, or sometimes you code, you feel happy. But what I'm saying is, I'm more like if you like to code, you will be happy if you are doing it. So coding is always happiness instead of happy coding. Okay, so you see here that you have a how to compile and how to contribute and so on. How to compile is usually in this workflow instruction, because as you see here, it explains how to build and test. So then if you are going to build your own, you can do that. And this .pudding.net means explain how to get nicely built of runtime to test them in your own projects. Yeah, it's like you have your own version of .NET SDK instead of having the version that is used or listed here. Right now I have a .NET 10 RC1. This is the official release. This is not the same as the one that is like in the nightly build or daily build of the runtime and its libraries. That's it. I hope you like it. And if you like it or enjoy it, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't. Of course, you don't forget to like it and subscribe it. That's, yeah, or the other way around. I'll see you later about this on the video of the interviews of Matt and me discussing about Visual Studio 18. I promise it will be the most candid because I will have a less editing, only focusing on what really matters because it is truly candid and enjoy. So thank you for watching this video. So don't forget, coding is happiness. If you feel happy to do what you like to do, you will, yes, that's why coding is happiness. So yeah, I'll see you on the next video of Belajar.net, and don't forget to wait for the interview videos that will be available uh, right after this video. I think it's about 1 day after this video is being uploaded and shown. Okay, I see you and bye bye.